Yo yada Nyankopɔn ase, me nuanom sɛ nnɛ so yɛhyia mu bio. Me ogidie sɛ na wotwe Nyame hwɛ wo so, ɔbɔ wo ho ban, ka wo ho, ɛwɔ yakɔneaba nyinaa mu. Nea wode hyɛ ne nsa bi ɔma no baa mu. Snow bi tɔɔyɛ, ne storm bi bɛfaa ha, nanso Nyame ahwɛ yɛn bio yɛda no ase. Yɛnuabaa Ivy Opoku nti last week odi yɛn anim nnɛ ɔbɛsan adi yɛn anim bio. Now, I am really excited about the topic. No, we're looking at addiction. I'm say, and right, send the information in our brain. Say, media addiction, senia and so impact our families. So, intime bompire senyame bekano ho na dumunti wafa yenua ba yesu akasa akyerɛ yɛn bompire. Na Ivy, saying
Pastor, Nyame adom ho yɛ paa.
There radiasi.
Ho yɛ deɛ.
Nyame adom me ho yɛ paa. Enti yɛbɔ mpaeɛ sɛ ndɛ Nyame nam so kasa akyerɛ yɛn. Yɛbɔ mpaeɛ wie a na afei magyae ha ama. Yɛbɔ mpaeɛ sɛ mama menyi wɔnom bi ɔmotae didi no. Minyi obiara mfiri so sɛ nipa korɔ bɛba so no na yɛ mute no dada. Ɛbɛboa yɛn. Ɛsɛ bɛyɛ adidi no bɛkɔ fam. Sɛ so wahwɛ a meyɛ live streaming so ɛkɔ YouTube. Enti yɛda Nyame ase. Yehowa, yɛda wase sɛ nnɛ w'adom nti wahyɛ wo ho anuonyam. Mede Ivy hyɛ wo nsa. Wo Nyame wakyekyɛ nimdeɛ ama wo ma bebree na ɔno so w'adom no bi. Ne ɔne yɛn ɛbɛkyɛ. Ɛsɛ sɛnea wasiesie no, fa no so na fa dom yɛn. Ɛsiane sɛ yɛte berɛ a yɛde social media yɛ adwuma bebree. Ehia sɛ yɛwɔ bie wɔ yɛabrabɔ mu wɔ kwan hodoɔ bi so, nanso bonsam ɛfa so de asɛe mmusua ahodoɔ. Nti yɛpa ɔkyɛw sɛ fa no so ɛbɛdom yɛn kyerɛkyerɛ yɛn. Yesu din mu ne yɛsrɛ w'adom mu. Amen.
Amen.
You said me can no enua Ivy Opoku enti on a master's degree and I think so was certifications so a public health. And who said the ten na ntimi nkan kra. Enti Nyame ama no nimdeɛ wɔ saa bea yi nnɛ ɔne yɛ bɛkonti Ivy, I turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Pastor. It's a great pleasure. Nyame ase sɛ nnɛ yi so one my yensa akwanya we na odi nyina ba behia mo me da se pastor. Busuafo amutie me ene me mamu nyina a good evening. I hope say Nyame adom mo nyina mo ho eye. Last week we had a good time, and today so by God's grace we'll also have a good discussion. And our topic we're looking at, as Pastor Kaya, we're looking at the topic of social media addiction and its impact on families. This is such an important topic, and the way social media are impacting it has a lot of positives, right? And I just want to get the disclaimers that we're not here to bash social media. The social media has been helpful, especially since the pandemic. How it has tremendously allowed us to connect with the Ebusiness from afar. It has allowed us to be able to do virtual learning remotely. It has allowed us to also spread Nyamiasam. There's a lot of evangelistic initiatives. Yetimia streaming it on YouTube and Facebook from so many different angles. And so the benefits are great. But what we want to look at is there's a quote that I always say, we are not how. Social media are buoying, but it also has its negative impact. And we want to talk about that. And we want to see how we can be mindful of it, because we know that in the end time, when some used to subtle things to draw our attention away from God and also bring about confusion in the family or distractions from our families, and see and see what we can learn from today. And so our overview, we're going to look at some statistics on social media, because when you understand the severity of the situation, it helps you to better understand in depth what it is and as to how to make changes to it. You better share what social media addiction really is. What is it? Signs of social media addiction. You better the negative implications that comes with it, and how it impacts yang busian for yang husbands and wives, couples, and also the children. And then we'll wrap up with talking about practical tips to prevent and to manage social media addiction for those who are addicted and those who are on the borderline. If I can't them. So when we talk about social media, by the way, so we're talking about Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, all the different platforms that you can imagine, right? Television, all the different platforms. So the increase in technology, computers, tablets, smartphones, and even smartwatches has made it hard to disconnect from the world. It has made it very difficult. Mommy's on the iPad, daddy's on the computer, even our kids is using the cell phone to play games. So everyone is using it. And in the end, knowledge will increase. We see that technology, say 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and how I now evolve in this regards that we have really come far in a tremendous way. We have come far. And so, but we see that, or psychologists are seeing that it's increasingly concerning that technology is breaking down family communication. We're seeing that this awesome item, social media, is also causing a lot of miscommunication in families, as our rob families of attention, communication, effective communication, and also feeling of safety within the family unit. So let's look at some facts on social media, some statistics. Now, the Barner Group did a research. Barner is a private, nonpartisan profit organization, and Omutaye a lot of research primarily on understanding cultural trends and related to beliefs, values, attitudes, and so forth. And to almost interview the Gen Z population in this, though, this category, between the ages of 13 to 21. And they asked about distractions when it comes to technology. 54% said that they waste a lot of time. They admitted that they waste a lot of time on social media. 54%, 53% says that they put on, or not that they procrastinate from doing homework or other things. 50% also said they are more distracted because of social media. And 36% say they feel less productive, and they also get, they don't get as much done. Almost to me a lot because they're on their social media platforms. And 30% said that it seems like their attention span is getting shorter because of social media that they're using. And so when they asked about screen time for this category, the screen time, they said 13% said they don't think it matters, right? So they feel indifferent about it. 3% it said their generation, they don't think that they spend too little time on the screens. And then 25% said their generation spends just the right amount of time on the screens. And a whopping 60%, that's the majority, almost say their generation, they spend too much time on the screens. And then when they talked about personal screen time, they asked, to what extent do you agree or disagree with the following statement? 17% said that they feel badly about spending too much time on the screen. 36% said somewhat, they agree somewhat that they're spending too much time on the screen. And 31% said they disagree somewhat that they are feeling badly about spending too much screen time. And then so 16% for those who disagree strongly. And so when we look at the popular trends in terms of social media, we see that YouTube, okay, so this one was done in 2018. So YouTube has the highest number of usage for young people, for teens in particular, 85%, and Instagram is 72%, and Snapchat is 69%, and Facebook is 51%. Now, some time ago, now Facebook was fairly on the top, but as things changed, the parents started coming on Facebook, and the moms and the dads were coming on there, the pastors were coming on there. And so now the young people, you see them gradually moving away from that platform, and they're going on other platforms like Instagram and so forth. And so we also see that 45% of our young people, our teens, are saying that they're spending almost 45% and they're almost constantly on Facebook, almost constantly. Now we see that in 2018, it was 45%, but then in 2014, it was 24%. So it has doubled. It has doubled significantly. And we don't know how things are going to look like. We can assume that in the next 4 more years, if this study's done again, it may increase. So 9 in 10 teens, young people, they go online several times a day. And this is from the Pew Research Center. And then specifically for Facebook, we see that the millennials, those born in 1981 to 96, they slightly had an increase from 2018 to 2019, but the silent generations, those born in 1945, we see a significant increase in the usage of Facebook from 2018 to 2019. So our parents are also using social media, and see social media, and yet just for the young people, it's not just for the youth, it's also the parents and the adults that are in the home as well. So let's talk a little bit about addiction, understanding social media addiction. This is classified as a behavioral addiction that is characterized as being overly concerned about social media. Say, be addicted to social media is classified as being overly concerned about social media, driven by an uncontrollable urge. So one core social media platform now you have this strong desire, this urge to go on there and to use it. So one check your WhatsApp out. You have this strong urge. So I'm checking my WhatsApp, even though I'm sending a message, and devoting so much time and effort to social media that it impairs other important life areas. So if you know other things to do, but you're on YouTube and you're on Facebook or you're on WhatsApp, okay? So that is looking at the defining addiction, social media addiction. Now it's estimated that 5 to 10% of Americans meet the criteria for social media addiction. 5 to 10% of Americans meet this criteria. Studies have shown that the constant streaming of retweets, likes, and shares from social media have affected the brain's reward area to trigger the same kind of chemical reaction as other drugs like cocaine. Addiction activates the reward area in our brain that's linked to pleasure, which is linked to increased dopamine. Last week, electronic cigarette, I gave sort of analogy about how when the person smokes, the nicotine travels and it releases the dopamine. So the dopamine, a feel-good chemical, right? And you're very addicted, to this, or even just using this platform, because they associate using social media with enjoyment. When they use it, the dopamine is released. And see, that feel-good chemical is what they're associating with going on social media or on their different platforms. So over time, the brain becomes very altered and it becomes accustomed to wanting this. And see, so any notification on their phone, they get a buzzard or you get anything out, you have a strong desire, so check it. not what the message is about, or you want to know what's happening or what's going on. Although many people, in looking at the signs, many people habitually use social media. Very few are generally addicted. So that's the good news. So we want to do a little assessment. I'm going to do a little assessment with you to determine what risk of developing an addiction to social media. So I'm gonna ask some questions. What, kind of answer it in your own way and determine yes or no for you. And we're gonna find out what the result is. And see, as I read it, you can answer it or think about it in your response. So do you use social media so much that it has had a negative impact on your job or your studies? Do you become restless? So I want to use social media, and I want to call any social media platform out. Do you become restless? And I said, do you become troubled if unable to use social media? Do you spend a lot of time thinking about social media, thinking about your Instagram, your YouTube, your Facebook, your WhatsApp? Do you spend time thinking about social media or planning to use social media? Do you feel that urge to use social media more and more? Do you often try to reduce use of social media without success? Maybe you've tried to, okay, I'm going to detox today. The whole day, I'm not going to use social media. And so later on, you realize, oh, you're going to pick up your phone to check. Is that the case for you? Or do you use social media to forget about the personal problems? And rather than talking about it, you say, oh, my Facebook, I mean, check it what's happening. You use it to numb the echo, and I say, is that something that you're doing? Now, if you answered to more than 3 of these questions, then you may have or be developing a social media addiction. You may have, or you might be on that borderline of developing social media addiction. So when we look at signs of social media addiction, they are either behavioral, physical, or emotional. Some of the behavioral signs of addiction is losing track of time spent online. For YouTube, you just wanted to do an hour and I said 30 minutes. 2 hours. And now it's a difficulty completing task. So you're focusing too much on the social media now also. Isolation from friends and family, feeling defensive or guilty about internet use. And I said, well, you're a cultural say, I've been on social media and they out to Facebook and now WhatsApp University, and you get a defensive about it. You get very upset, you get defensive. Those are behavioral signs. Or even for the kids, Facebook and I saw Instagram and they get defensive. Those are some signs. Experiencing a sense of euphoria when involved in online activities. Some people be I said, you think that they're having a conversation with somebody else, and so maybe they have this extra excitement when they're on their social media platform. And so when we look at the physical signs, strained vision, severe headache, sleep problems and insomnia, and I don't want that because you're on it, you're checking, you want to see. Carpal tunnel, right? Or risk, and so you're on the computer, texting or chatting. Significant weight loss, and I say weight gain. When we look at the emotional component, feeling of guilt or shame of internet use, feelings of anxiety or depression, and I say irritability or some type of mood changes. Now, we know that studies are telling us that studies have examined that neurologically, our brain's wiring is affected even from an early age, and technology access broadens, okay? Addicts spend between 40 and 80 hours per week almost spending about 40 to 80 hours. That's a whole work, a work hours. It'll be shifting, with some usage lasting up to 20 hours at one time. Now, the addiction process is gradual. And that's why these discussions are very important, because sometimes you don't even realize you're getting to that level. We say, oh, no, addiction, wait there, media, social media, and me lie, and I say, area may what problem. But gradually, it can get there. Now we see teens who play there's a game that's referred to as massively multiplayer online role. And there are those who tend to play these type of games are likely to become addicted because the games do not have an end. Some of these games, they have made it in a way that you're playing with other people from other areas. See, if you're in New York, and so no one will be all California, play this game. And it never ends. It goes on and on. And so the user, they don't really reach a point where the game is mastered, and I said completed. So the urge, and I said the desire to continue returning to play a game becomes addicting over time. Now, another important thing, social media platform is set up so that you continue to scroll non-ending. Recently, I watched a documentary on Netflix, and it's called Social Dilemma. And everyone should watch it. I encourage you to watch it. It's such an eye-opener. And it's in a documentary where creating Facebook, and I say, social media platforms like Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, all of these different platforms, they're getting together and they're talking about sort of the concept and the reasons behind all of these different functions the social media platforms. And did you know that the social, when you go on Facebook and that's Instagram, all the other, the scrolling option that they have, it continues and is never ending. In a way, said, phone now call Facebook now. You're constantly looking at your notification. You would never get to a part where you would end. It would just keep going side, and that drives people to continue to stay on their phone because you're thinking, so, okay, let me see all the notifications that I have, or not just notifications, but feeds, the feeds that I have. And you will just be scrolling, and it's never ending. And these people have intentionally done this to really keep you coming back, or to really keep you continuing to be on there. Not 2 hours are past it, 3 hours. It's a very interesting documentary, and I encourage people to watch it. You can watch it with your family for the most part. It's a decent documentary to watch. So now, share some of the negative impact on it, how it has on family. We see that parents increases screen time, so do children. The more I will know to WhatsApp, so we'll show YouTube, ne will show Facebook, ne will companies, I will call our phone, so hit TV, Now more fun, the young people, your teens or young people, they're also watching, right? So as parents are increasing their screen time, so are the children. Screen time in these studies included smartphones, television, computers, and video games. We see that technology can bring forth negative interaction or zero interaction between for the siblings, couples, or even the parent to child. It starves the family of learning and modeling with each other social cues. And see the interpersonal relation skills, communication, bonding, it's not really there. You might be talking to your spouse, and so or phone. You might be talking to your child, phone. They're playing on the phone. They're not really, or their computer or iPad or whatever they have, and they're not really paying attention. And we miss out on some cues, right? We're communicating, but effective communication, we're really not doing it. We're not listening. We also know studies find that kids who spend a lot of time using technology are in front of a screen have more difficulty than peers understanding emotions. Okay, in crowd use technology, and I said they're on their screens a lot, more difficulty than their peers understanding emotions, developing relationships with others, and they may be more dependent on other people because of their lack of connection, and I said the interpersonal relationships they have, because they're always on the screens. Research said individuals communicate more often with family due to technology, but the style and the type of communication is potentially weaker. So family members may communicate with each other on social media instead of talking to each other face to face. Sometimes rather than talking, they're texting, almost sending messages to each other rather than them talking directly. We also know that there's a correlation, there's a link between depression, any increased social media use, and adolescents are most likely to become more affected by it. There was a study done in 2019, and they interviewed, or the participants was about 6,500 individuals from the ages of 15 to 12 to 15. And they found that those who spend more than 3 hours a day using social media might be at a heightened or at an increased risk for mental health problems. Okay. So looking at more of the negative impact on Ebusiness and as a family. So it has become a compulsion for most people to check their phones for new notifications every few minutes. So we'll share this image out. They're having time together, but Bako on the computer, so Bako on the phone, so on the iPad. Even the mother is also on her phone. It has been found that people experience the same kind of withdrawal symptoms as a drug addict if they are unable to check their social media. So obia or a drug addict when you're a drug not all go through withdrawal. It's a very difficult thing to watch. And so they're connecting this with someone who has not had, or someone who has an addiction to social media. Some time ago, I took some master guides to wilderness camping. I teach the master guide course for our conference, Greater New York Conference, and one of the requirements is that they have to go away from their usual environment. They have to go out in nature. In the wilderness camping in the bushes somewhere upstate New York. And they were told that no one usually can get a reception into, you don't really need your phones. And some people probably didn't pay attention. So there was one young lady who was, during the course of the weekend, you can tell she was struggling. I know a cocoa baby to see they can get the connection. And I looked at it and I said, you are not going to be able to get connection here. We are in the remote outskirts, no Wi-Fi or no connection here. And you can just tell the agitation and the frustration, how they feel when they don't have that connection. And I said the ability to connect with their social media platforms. And see, that withdrawal, that people who use drugs, like a smoker would use, or somebody who's using marijuana, sometimes people who have some type of addiction with social media might experience a type of withdrawal, of course, and yet the same type of withdrawal, but they go through some type of their own type of withdrawal, like agitation. Now, when we look at this picture, this couple, they are together, right? Many couples spend time with each other, but their minds are engrossed in their own social media entertainment, and that's a social entertainment as they scroll through their individual. See, Papa way or on the phone, so, and this lady is scrolling away somewhere on our platform, and so they're together, they're in the same room, but they're on different places, or they have different they're connecting different ways, right? And unfortunately, many of us, in our families, we're doing this. We're doing this subtly, but we're not realizing it sometimes because it's become a part of our routine. Distraction, continuing on with some of the negative items, negative impact, distractions from spending quality time rather than say you bring out the time together as a family, as a couple, we're distracted with all of these gadgets. We want to try to practice value real-time connection over internet connection. Spending time nurturing our relationships. And also, it's important to know that there are unrealistic expectations and standards. So we'll share social media. There are things that are happening, but it's oftentimes not real. People are putting on images, things on there, but it's not real. It's unrealistic expectations. Suspicious behaviors and infidelity. Social media has caused a lot of couples to have marital issues because of the way our ABR will be on social media and the connection and the way in which they're communicating. Sometimes it can become a problem in marriages. Now, I want to briefly talk about selfies. Selfies, I know right now it's old. It's an old phenomenon, but there was a time when it was so rampant. A poll was done in 2015, and they found that the average woman between 16 and 26 spends over 5 hours a week taking selfies. Just taking selfies, kake. Taking pictures of themselves. And they, on average, women take about 7 shots to get just one image. So be taking so many pictures, and only 7 will be posted on their social media feeds or platform because they're seeking perfection. And now we have all of these different filters and you can change the size of your face. You can do a certain thing. You can change your complexion. You can change all of these things, and they're using that as a sort of a thing to post. And it seems fun and it seems subtle, but there are a lot of concerns with that as well. Sometimes people are comparing. So they're looking at what other people are posting on social media. So self-esteem comes into play. And it often hits when you start comparing yourself too much with other people and what you're seeing. And this is very common also. Emano na yet oftentimes victims to these things based on the research that we're seeing. Now, another study found that frequently viewing selfies led to decreased self-esteem and decreased life satisfaction. It was found that girls who spend more time on looking at pictures on Facebook reported higher weight dissatisfaction and self-objectification. And you see, almost post two pictures and posting it on Facebook, they're also looking at other girls and other people. And they start to compete and start to compare. And it affects their self-esteem and it affects their image as an individual. Now, the American Academy of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgeon, they found that 42% of surgeons were actually asked to perform procedures to improve selfies and pictures on social media platforms. I was blown away. People are actually asking, say, omo doctors no bet me ayo omo nim in a certain way. Say be omo no in a certain way, and that's omo cheekbone in a certain way, so that they can have better selfies and take pictures and post it on social media platforms. Unbelievable. Now, some of the negative impact continuing behavior problems, especially for young people. So elementary school age children who watch TV and also who use computer more than 2 hours per day are more likely to have emotional, social, and attention problems. See, I will for now more, especially young children, we have to be mindful of that. I think the pediatricians often recommends that children under 2 they shouldn't really be having too much screen time. It should be completely limited or not at all. Educational problems is one of the negative effects. Elementary school age children who have televisions in their bedrooms do worse on academic testing. TV rooms, no, they do. Studies tells us that they do worse on testings. And obesity, too much time engaging in sedentary activity can be a risk factor for becoming overweight. So we see that obesity is one of the major public health issues in our country. And we also see that a lot of young people, when they are on their games, they're eating or mudidi, and they're not realizing even how much food they're eating. The lack of activity and exercise, all of it leads to obesity. Sleep problems. The light that's emitted from screens interferes with the sleep cycle in the brain, and that also leads to insomnia. Some young people, and I almost stay up all night, and they're on their social media platforms. They're not sleeping at the time I always saw Modano. Violence. Exposure to violent TV shows, movies, music, and video games can also cause children to become desensitized to it. And eventually they may use violence to solve problems and may even imitate that, what they're seeing on TV or on other things that they're watching. So with all of this being said, how can we actually now begin to really make changes? So if you are addicted, if you find that you fall in the category of Omwan, if they're addicted, or maybe so your child is addicted, well, this is a real situation. And see, there are treatment for this, because it's considered to be an addiction, right? Treatment is typically based on cognitive behavioral therapy. So they do a lot of behavioral changes to help individual now addicted, to change from sad behavior. They see a psychologist or counselor that specialize in this, and they help them to find alternatives and as a substitute to this social media and so again, it focuses on gaining new skills and learning to be without the technology for a duration of the treatment. And everyone's level different. Some people might be highly addicted, and some people might be very mildly addicted, and all of that it depends. Treatment would depend on where Nipano Ejina in terms of their addiction. Now, for those who are not quite addicted, you might say, well, I don't think that addiction is probably what I have. Maybe I'm getting there, and I say, I might, but maybe you don't feel that you fit in the category of addiction, which is great, right? We said that about 5 to 10% of Americans are considered to be addicted to social media. But we want to begin to make some changes. If I say you're making some practical changes. So some of the things you want to begin to consider are engaging in a digital detox. Meaning that you want to try to reduce the time I will spend it on your electronic. And I say you want to abstain from using your electronics. Turn off your sound notifications. Every phone, say or iPhone or Android, the sound notification options are there. And only check those social media sites once an hour or less. So you want to try to turn it off and check only those sites once an hour. Say maybe a set time, maybe from afternoon to this time, from 12 to 2 or whatever you have now. I'm going to just check all my social media platform. Okay, so that you're not randomly throughout the day checking your different social media accounts. Establish that no screen time period. Okay, again, or having a technology-free zone. For example, mealtime, no iPhones, no phones, no electronic gadgets, or leave your phone in a separate room, and especially at nighttime. I know this is hard for us, especially if we've been udana or phone at down chair. It will take practice. It will take intentionality. Last week when we were talking about stress, all of these changes, change is hard. So person will apply new routine into your lifestyle. It's important to make it very gradual, okay, and be consistent. Now, this allows for a restored focus on social interaction in the physical world, and it reduces dependency in networking sites. Now, in continuing, so we want to be mindful of how we use social media. Again, me can say I work for no most so you must be mindful of it, specifically, especially setting good examples for your children. You want to make sure because they're looking at you. Yeah. Try having a plan for what you're going to do on social media. And it's all for phone. Tell yourself, say, okay, I'm make call WhatsApp. I'm gonna just check all my messages. And I said, Meko YouTube to watch the videos I've been wanting to watch. And I said, Meko Instagram and our Facebook, whatever platform you have. Now, and the young people know they can also apply this. Tell yourself how long you will be on it. Say if you have 2 hours now, person will spend there. Give yourself that 2 hours. Time yourself. Okay. You also want to build self-esteem in your children. And this kind of goes in line with the selfies, compliment on their appearance. A lot of the young, especially the young ladies, they're having a lot of self-esteem issues because almost again, they're looking at what they're seeing on these platforms. They're looking at these celebrities posting things and other people posting things. So they become like say almost emulating these type of things. And see, parents with especially teenagers and young people in the house, it's important to compliment your young people on their appearance, so that they are confident in themselves. Compliment your children at least as much for the things they do and how they work. For example, it's not just the appearance. If you're very good in math, you want to make sure you're giving them, you're giving them credit for that. If they're very good in playing sports, and I said they're good at playing piano, if you're good at painting and drawing, you want to build all of these, help them build these confidence up so they're not relying on what they're seeing on social media to help build their confidence and I said their self-esteem. And you want to try to monitor your teen's account. And I know some young people are not going to be happy with this, but you want to do that, especially for the younger one. Let your teen know that you'll be regularly checking his or her social media account. And use parental control features. A lot of the phones know, as they say, are more options where you can restrict certain sites. And if you don't know how to do it, to me for a phone carrier, they're able to walk you through it so that the young person, and I said, will not be going on sites. Now, with all of this, no, I don't want anybody to go away and taking their phones away from your child. It's not going to be effective. With any change that you are making, I always tell money again. We also money are very gradual, right? When you take it away completely like that, no, they're gonna go into a withdrawal. So you want to be very intentional, very gradual. Set these boundaries. Apply some of these things. Maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. Not almost to adapt to a change you see. So but there be I know social media platforms now. You don't want to just take it away like that right away. Now we'll explain it to them why spending too much time on it is not healthy for them. And I say why I am more. Explain what's not okay. Talking to them about what's appropriate and what's safe to share on social media. There's a lot of bullying that's going on social media, and there's sexting, which is not new. Sexting idea, it's pretty old. Young people taking pictures, nude pictures of themselves, or sometimes topless pictures of themselves, and they're sending it to friends. And then there's been so many incidents where people have been humiliated because people got pictures of them and they shared it on social media and have brought so much problems. There's been cases where children have committed, or not children, but teens, young people have committed suicide because of this type of embarrassment that has happened. And so we want to be having these discussions with our young people. Talk about your own social media habits. Ask your teen how he or she's using social media and how it makes him or her feel. Some people go on there to get distracted from Nehemiah Kosowofi. They're not into and they don't want to be bothered. So they just go on their social media platforms to just distract them. Remind your teen that social media is full of unrealistic images. And teach your children to know your purpose. Why do you have a social media account? so that they can focus on that purpose. Is it just to reconnect with your friends? Is it to meet new friends? Whatever the specific purpose is, that's what you want to stick with. Work together, and that's a work to increase quality, fun family time without technology. Set aside family time that is going to be intimate and without having all of these gadgets. We want to just go back to basics. Gone are the days when families are having meals. To say the mom is sitting on the chair watching TV, eating, the child is somewhere in another room, and the dad is somewhere in let's try to cultivate this common, this sort of back to basic mentality where we're joining together. And I know that in this country, evening, it is very challenging. It's very challenging. It's easier said than done. But mom, try to find a common time that you can come together to connect. Say, best started with the weekends. That's something that you can begin to work on. The weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, I'm moving. Have dinner together. Sit at the table together. Look at each other eye to eye and talk about how and how is it? I've been at this. How is this going? That connection. And if there are things going on, you can share it with each other. It's not too late. Even so, they're still at home. Let's try to implement game nights. You don't need anything extravagant, anything expensive. Simple game nights. Uno cards, Ludo, board games, you name it. There's so many things that you can have to have as a game night. Let's have fun at home, because right now with this COVID, this quarantine, your home is a place where you want to be happy, you want to be comfortable, and see, let's make that atmosphere so. Talking to each other, talking about each other helps with interacting, having that face-to-face, modeling healthy communication and interpersonal relations, and family devotional time. I can't stress this enough. Morning and evening, or whenever it's possible during the day, let's have that family time, that prayer time together. Family, that old saying, a family that prays together stays together, is very helpful for the young people, because when they leave the house and they have started when they start their own family, some of these things will stick, and they will also apply it to their own family relations and their own family connections. I want to quickly share this video, just a 2-minute video about the Ayakanhuasamnu and how it's important to have a balance with regards to the social media usage.
Social media is not evil. It's not good.
Excuse me.
All of the share our vacations, pictures of our food, but the problem is balance, which is if it is an unbalanced presence in our lives, it will have detrimental impact to the quality of our friendships and our ability to form deep, meaningful relationships. It'll actually hurt our ability to manage and deal with stress, because we find ourselves turning to social media for validation, or to help us relax, rather than turning to human beings. So I think the big problem is that social media is addictive. It releases a chemical in our body called dopamine, which is the chemical that's released when we gamble, when we drink, when we smoke, that makes us feel good, and it makes us excited, and it's fun. Like when your phone goes ding because a text came in, like we all say we wish we had less, but if you really got 0 texts or 0 dings in a day, you would worry, and the problem is that it is a highly addictive chemical inside our bodies. And so we as a society have not yet labeled social media or cell phone addiction as a legitimate addiction. So we have no treatments for it. And just as we wouldn't give our children access to alcohol or gambling because their little brains are too young to deal with the addictive qualities of dopamine, we have no restrictions on the access we give our children to equally addictive devices. and this is true for parents as it is for companies, by the way. There should not be there needs to be, there should be no young children with any, young children should have zero access to the devices, and older children need to have more controls, and companies should ban cell phones in conference rooms, frankly. There should be no cell phones in conference rooms. I've inspired other organizations to try it, and I've checked in and asked them how it went, and they said the meetings got shorter. Ironically, the meetings got shorter. The quality of the relationships of their teams improved. Communication generally improved across the whole firm, and with clients, they will literally take clients' phones away. They'll have a basket and say, "We all put our phones in this basket." You know, no, not even with your phone face down. It's not polite. You know, and they found that the relationships with their clients have got better simply because they have zero cell phones on lunch tables, office tables, and never in a conference room. So I think there's opportunity in our personal lives and our professional lives.
So as I get ready to wrap up, I just want to share this quote from the book Child Guidance, page 17. And it says, "It is in the home that the education of the child is to begin. With his parents as instructors, he is to learn the lessons that are to guide him throughout life. The educational influences of the home are a power for good or for evil. They are in many respects silent and gradual, but if exerted on the right side, they become a far-reaching power for truth and righteousness. If the child is not instructed aright here, Satan will educate him through agencies of his choosing." Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. We will be able to apply it into our family dynamics so that as we are awaiting the second coming of our Lord and our Savior, we will be working on enriching our families and having successful, impactful families for God's glory. And see, Mano Ebisi has said, Pastor, and I believe we can open the floor for any questions.
Oh, Ivy, we thank you so very much. What the baby na brain? In fact, Naniaji ye say, Wama Hokwana Yame Namoso, a BB Sani Mawimu. Inti a cheerful Sani Adabi Ayono, Tamason, Wagni, you're saying, then I'll tear. A bra ebano, me in fact, Minchro be bika crabby. Na, in famwa. A way time biano, or one say, Obia or call internet noNcrophobiso air monitor. 2020 no. This is Mia. Womutimiki Kambo Muse every 60 seconds, 1 minute. Activities and nipa yo social media so now every minute in the year 2020 now. Every minute. Intija wo for any firm now say when you social media platforms. Na ning na kreni. Inti share WhatsApp. Just 1 minute now. Nipa almost sending messages. 59 million. 1 minute, 60 seconds. Share Snapchat 2.5 million. Omo moda Niema online almost spending sika 1.1 million. Netflix 664. Google search omo mo Google so 4.1 million. Facebook in a minute omo logo on 1.3. iMessage one more send text messages 19 million in a minute. YouTube 4.7 videos viewed. Apps and Crawford download here 400,000. Both Google Play and App Store. Until you just go around here, who said Tinder 1.6, tweeting 194,444 in a minute. 190 million emails sent in a minute. 1.2 million view Twitch. 1.4 for TikTok, and 305 smart speakers shipped from Amazon. And then 2.5 images viewed on IMGA. And Chirasa, what can we na bomu ayanum? Yeah, how near money at Dawson. we num na ama ye nyina ya addicted no. So kwan ba na e befa so a e beboa ye ho na aboa ye ma no. Wadwene ye say obetimi a unmute wo ho and then tell us what you think we can all do. Ivy, we thank you so very much. Nyame nhyira wo se wode nsɛm fata se ye abrɛ nti ebusuafo mo adwene ye mo sɛ na wote de na wote ne na den na pɛ sɛ wo so wode ka ho.